All right, it's our final segment this morning on Morning Line. With us, Davidson County Sheriff Darren Hall. This morning we're spending most of the show, usually we bounce all over the place, but the big issue here is this multi-million-dollar construction, and actually demolition first and then construction of the new jail, which, you would think when something like this is being built and, the new plans, the sheriff would be involved. You were initially. We have a new mayor now who's, you say, taking more, and I'll check with her office later today as well, but taking more of a lead as opposed to you. And there's some concerns about down the road whether everything is going to be handled properly.
Yeah, I mean, I think the cost and so forth, it's important for the public to know that we're not involved with doing that now. I'm just saying we do not. There was a $20 million budget item, I think, voted on or put into the capital spending plan the other day from the mayor's office. I'm not sure what that money is for. I'm not real sure what that's about. But that's one piece. But Nick, I'm really concerned more about how the building's going to operate if you're not allowing the people who run it today to have input in, and not even input, but lead in issues such as visitation.
So if I were able to get in touch with the mayor today and say, listen, Darren Hall was on my show this morning, and he says that he is not allowed to have input now in the process of the construction of the new jail. And
that's not, I didn't say that.
Okay, let's be clear. So what do we say?
I want to be real clear. Our staff are involved with how the jail sells and how they are lined up in the building.
Okay.
They should be, that's a good thing. The building and the public's involvement in that building, i.e. the families, the visitors, the lawyers, the police department, the public defender, those types of folks, which are critical to how this person in this job is going to be dealt with as it relates to those folks. Those decisions and those meetings are being hosted and led by the mayor's office. We are one of, it says it in the paper today, we are at those stakeholder meetings as a stakeholder leading what we believe is our role. For example, the public defender may have an argument as to how they want to deal with certain issues in the building. Let's say visitation. Whereas the sheriff's office is going to be held accountable by the family, by the lawyer, by the inmate, and by the staff who have to operate that whole thing. And so if you're just listening to and you're leading the project without that balance in mind, clearly if you're just listening to what you think is important, we have to handle all of that. The inmate is accountable to us, the staff work for us, the community is going to be screaming at me about their own problems with visitation, let's say. I don't believe that should be led by anyone else. The functionality of the building should be our responsibility.
So if I ask the mayor, the sheriff's telling me that he's not leading this project.
Absolutely not.
And she'll say, I don't know. But I mean, most people, I think, most rational individuals would think that the sheriff should be very involved with the new jail. I mean, that seems to me be pretty much a no-brainer. And I can't imagine the mayor or Riebling or anyone else saying, oh, we're cutting the sheriff out completely. And I know you've said there's the meetings here, but on this other stuff, that's hard for, even me to believe.
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue boils down to, and this was a conversation with the mayor 9 months ago, that the sheriff's office should be leading the project. I want to work with General Services. We were doing that a year ago.
And you would involve the mayor. I mean, you would keep her. I mean, you could be almost equals, but right now you're not even equals.
No. And I was meeting with them, the former Rich Riebling, and every week or every other week it felt like, and we were talking about what was going on in the other way, right, a year ago. And guess what? I went out in the public and got beat up over ideas that we had made about how big it needed to be and what it was going to cost. And it should be. I mean, I went to the council and lobbied and pushed and got beat up and went through all that. That's the way it ought to be. Today, those same feelings of frustration from the Southeast Nashville and from my own staff and others as to the decisions that are being made about this project are not made with the sheriff's office in mind. I mean, the mayor's office wants to open the park and then move inmates. We've never been talked to about what the impact of that would be to us.
Yeah. All right, let's take a quick call from Tom. Tom, go ahead. Tom.
How you doing this morning, Nick?
Good, Tom.
Good morning, Tom.
I've got a little thing that, if you remember a sitcom back in the 60s, and I'm not comparing Sheriff Hall by any means to Andy Taylor, but he had a prisoner in jail, and the mayor come over, a new elected mayor, and Andy had let the prisoner out to go do his crops, and he's supposed to have been back at 5 o'clock. Well, when the mayor come to check, the prisoner wasn't there, so he goes to get the prisoner himself. Well, the prisoner's up a tree. Well, the mayor goes over there hollering at the prisoner. Well, come to find out, the man man up the tree and also put the mayor up the tree. So I think that mayor's going to be up the tree if you don't let Sheriff Hall run his department.
I think I've seen that episode. Thank you for your call.
Well,
Thank you for your call.
Tom, by the way, one of the highlights of my sheriff terms was getting to meet Andy Griffith.
Did you get to meet him?
Oh, man, great.
Man, that's neat.
Yeah, I have some great pictures of that. I tell both of my sons that story all the time. He's a really neat man, and those episodes when you're raising two sons,
sure.
There's nothing better than sitting watching Andy
They're
Griffith.
still great to watch even today, man.
That's
well,
amazing.
as we wrap things up, then, just looking to the future now, I mean, first of all, if you can, worst case scenario, if you're not able to get on the same page with the mayor, and this is really what our viewers are probably most concerned with because they live
Right.
here, they pay the taxes, they want to be safe and know this works. What's the worst case scenario if this continues the way it is now in your mind?
Yeah, let me be real clear. I want you to, I think this is important. I mean, I don't have a personal, and I don't think the mayor's office is a personal, that's why I keep saying the word philosophical. I believe the philosophy of the mayor's office is that everything falls under the mayor's office. The symbolic gesture of the organizational chart, that doesn't mean anything to me. I mean, I could care less where I show up. The sheriff doesn't belong on the chart. That's not important. What's important to me is let the person who's elected independently run that organization and have direct say-so in how that operates. This is the most important time in the history of the sheriff's office, if you ask me. It is. The taxpayers expect it to be built and function in a way at a cost, and the person who's directly involved with those decisions needs to be held accountable for it. And I hope, when it's all said and done, function in the way that the person and persons who know best had direct say-so in their fingerprints in exactly how the building's going to function. Not just the cells where the inmates live, how the public are going to interact, how the police are going to interact, how the community is going to interact with that building, because that's who's going to hold us accountable. It
makes perfect sense. Now, I think if there's good news here, it's the fact that there's time, okay? Right, correct. I mean, you're addressing this. Obviously, you've gone public with this, and you're bringing this up, and we'll see, how things work out with the mayor's office. But, I mean, if we're looking at the timetable, seriously, you haven't even started tearing this baby down yet. And, so there's time to get on the same page, is there not?
Right, and we're willing to do that. It's not that. I think that what's happened, just so you know, the reason this all went public was because there were changes the mayor made by opening the park back up late in the process, and by asking us to move all inmates right in the middle of us moving inmates, and we don't have the money to do that. And so I wanted to go have a conversation with the public safety and the budget and finance committees of the council because I don't have the funds to do it. And I don't really think, this wasn't really, the purpose was to really explain, we've got some real shifts in the way that this thing is going on. And when the council members are asking me questions like the cost overruns and the budget for it, and I don't have the answers, you can understand where that leads to these questions. And so I'm not out trying to, I would sit right here with the mayor and have this discussion. It's not a personal problem. I'm not trying to involve myself with schools, or the water department, or the police department, or the fire department. My role is pretty narrowly defined, and I think we try very hard to stay in that lane. This clearly is in that lane. This is a jail. This is what we've been fighting for 3 years to try to get. We want it built with our staff in mind because that's who's going to operate it. And the taxpayers long term, the cost to operate it far exceed the cost to build it. It does. And so if you build it without those things and the function in mind, you can ask people all day long what do they want and what do they see, but really the impact of what that's going to mean to operations down the road is where the taxpayer needs to be, and the person running the building needs to be held accountable. It's going to cost you a tremendous amount of money if you don't do that.
All right, listen, we'll keep following this. And I think even if someone, believes that the mayor's stewardship should be where it is, if for no other reason, you can understand why he would want, I think, to be at least in the mix and involved. Because the bottom line is it's easy maybe for even the mayor to do this now, knowing that if somehow some things go south 4 or 5 years from now, they're not going to be calling her.
Right.
They'll be calling you.
Right.
And you're going to be the one who's got to answer for it. So I don't blame you for wanting to be involved more as it stands. Sheriff Hall, thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Nate.
Pleasure. And we'll continue to follow this. Appreciate you talking about it. And certainly, in fairness, we're going to have to check in with the mayor's office as well. We'll take a break. Be back with a programming note about tomorrow right after this. Stay with us.